You used to be nice. Or did you never used to be? Oh, God. Maybe you never used to be.
This can easily be the hardest hitting line from the Banshees of Inisherin. My favorite, and might even be the best subdued drama film from the year that just flew past by us way quicker than we could have ever expected it to. Written and directed by one of the masters of that genre, Martin McDonagh, starring the charming duo of Colin Farrell and Brandon Gleeson, who reunite with the director after working on the 2008 black comedy and crime drama classic In Bruges. All of the usual threads that weave the plots of his films is present in this title that is under the lens to be studied here. It is by all means a typical Martin McDonagh film, and a really good one at that, featuring two traditional and religious men who aren't that well equipped to deal with their emotions, either brushing them aside or using humor to deflect them, hiding them under their impenetrable shield of masculinity, a thematic motif that is prevalent in the work of his, which he uses to inspect the fragile nature of it and how toxic past or upbringing has the capability to mold its identity, and how much power it holds towards how they react and behave. However, it isn't bombastic like In Bruges or Seven Psychopaths. Neither does it have that piercing social commentary that made Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri so special, and the effect it had on the viewers. Still, it has that visceral and extreme feel to it that the director has always been fascinated by. The vengeful way of utilizing violence in this tale about friendship, longing to be left alone, and feeling lonely cuts to the same depth as his previous films. A study of the male psyche that inquires about questions that are grounded to reality and yet feels absurd at certain moments, making the viewer ponder about their existence and at the same time presenting its ridiculousness. It effortlessly transitions between the examination of human behavior in such a bleak backdrop and in that tragic context to the trademark, dry and humane humor that makes Martin McDonagh's writing so compelling and fulfilling. At one point, it's naturally hilarious, and then out of nowhere, you get slapped with its metaphorical messages that leaves you crying out of happiness and heartbroken at the realization of its real-to-life narrative. So, let's get emotionally fucked. The events in this story takes place in a fictional Irish isle named Inisherin, with the timeline being set in the 1920s, where the country was reaching the conclusion of a troublesome civil war. Shortly after those thoughts, we are introduced to Pádraig, who is seen to be heading towards the house where his friend Colm resides, to invite him to the pub, as it is almost a tradition for them to go for an afternoon drinking session. But Colm doesn't respond to his callings, so he decides to leave him alone and goes back to his home, where we meet his sister, Siobhan, who is surprised to see him there at that hour. And when he brings forth Colm's silent treatment, she asks him if they have been rowing.
Have you been rowing?
Have you been rowing?
So does the owner of the pub they regularly visit. Pádraig does deny that, but he isn't entirely sure if they had a disagreement or had he said or done something while being drunk. To clear the confusion, he meets him in the pub, but he acts distant towards him as the questions about them rowing resurfaces.
Are you rowing?
I didn't think we were rowing.
Well, you are rowing. Well, you are rowing. He's sitting outside in his own like a whatchamacall.
It does look like we're rowing.
He decides to confront him about this cold conduct of his and gets hit with a response that makes him speechless.
I just don't like you no more.
leaving him lost in that already gloomy place which just seems to worsen as time passes by. While Colum looks like he's having the best day of his life, entertaining people and being surrounded by the ones who adore him. Whereas Parek tries his best to keep distance from him, but still hopes to rekindle their friendship. The next day he finds him in the pub working on a tune and doesn't react well to his disturbance, insulting him by stating that he doesn't do anything of substantial value with his idle hours, and his own limited amount of time will be spent in a better way if he focuses on composing music rather than listening to his dull and aimless conversations, which doesn't help him to leave the world with anything worth remembering. Being called words like dull and dim affects him, as he starts to develop insecurities about people laughing behind his back, which isn't helped by his sister, who can't confidently deny but only deflect his questions by saying that he is a nice person.
No, because you're not dull, you're nice.
That's what I thought. A happy lad.
Colum gets fed up with Parek's attempt to befriend him, so he offers him an ultimatum. If he doesn't stop talking or bothering him, he will chop his fingers and send them to him until he is left alone or has no fingers left. The fellow pub members think he has to be serious. Dominic, a troubled kid, wonders if he is bluffing, and Sivan doesn't want to take any risks. But does Parek have enough self-restraint to stop that from happening? The tagline for this film is quite interesting. Everything was fine yesterday. The way or from where Martin McDonagh initiates the story and how he finishes it is daring to say the least, but works wonderfully for what he wanted it to be. The almost abrupt ending can leave some viewers unsatisfied. But how is it any different from the beginning? Our judgment of their funny pairing comes from the recollection of people who knew them. And as Parek said, he thought he liked him yesterday. But that might not even be true, as Colum hardly paid any attention to his chatting and just tolerated it. He might have started the dispute, but Parek is the one who will end it, which justifies how the film concludes. It was simply a collection of events about two people who used to be friends, who used to like each other, and as Sivan jokingly said, maybe he doesn't like him anymore. Maybe he has changed and moved on. And this change leads to their conflict. A conflict that sprouts all sorts of challenges to Parek. A man who starts to feel detached from the people who he loved and wanted to be like. Colum and Sivan are perceived as thinkers who either love to read or pursue academic or artistic endeavors, whilst Parek is seen as one of life's good guys, who is fond of chatting, much like Dominic. All of this makes him struggle with the thought of his being a nice person, good enough, or at all. It has numerous similar hard-to-swallow moments, which aligns with the daunting setting of the film. A war-ridden time period in a demoralizing island full of judgmental people, where talks of depression is whispered or supposed to be pushed down to cope with it, and feelings such as loneliness, internal peace, and despair are usually deflected, which is reflected in the core characters and their unsaid past. The hopelessness in Colum's lifestyle seeps into the life of Parek and Sivan, as the former becomes spiteful and the latter is forced to depart before it's too late. The film excels in its pursuit to explore the themes of desolation, meaning behind living, and the impact left after one's death. How it is so difficult to grasp with the reality of losing someone or something, even if it was a normal chat while having a pint.
Also, Porrick asked me to put in a word, like.
I see.
So. It isn't him you have the impure thoughts about, is it?
Are you joking me? I mean, are you feckin' joking me?
People do have impure thoughts about men, too.
Do you have impure thoughts about men, Father?
I do not have impure thoughts about men. And how dare you say that about a man of the cloth?
Well, you started it.
Well, you can get out of my confessional right now, so you can. And I'm not forgiving you any of these things until the next time, so I'm not.
Well, I better not be dying in the meantime then, eh, Father? I'll be pure fucked.
You will be pure fucked. Yes, you will be pure fucked.